Here, Will.
Okay. So I'd like to call the Comox Valley Regional District regular board meeting of Tuesday, May 26, 2020 to order. I'll start by reading the statement that in response to COVID-19, the pandemic, in accordance with Ministerial Order 139, this meeting is closed to the public. If members of the public wish to provide input, they should contact the Cvrd Legislative Service Department. And live webcasts and recordings are available at our website. And board members are gathered on the unceded traditional territory of the Comox First Nation. And to start off today's meeting, I'll read Article 10 from the United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Indigenous peoples shall not be forcibly removed from their lands or territories. No relocation shall take place without free, prior, and informed consent of the Indigenous peoples concerned, and after agreement on just and fair compensation, and where possible, with the option of return. And with that, we move to B, the in-camera recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And the recommendation is that the committee adjourn to in-camera pursuant to Section 90, Labor Relations or Employee Negotiations, or 91E, the acquisition, deposition, or expropriation of land or improvements. And is there any opposed to going in camera? Hearing and seeing none, that passes. So we're on to C, adoption of minutes for May 12th.
Move.
Move the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. And are there any discussion or questions about the minutes from the Regional District Board meeting May 12th? Hearing none. So is there any opposition to adoption of the minutes? Okay. And that passes. And on to D, business arising from the minutes.
Do we need a motion to rise and report on these, or just to receive them?
This is to rise and report, and it's within the resolution itself. Right, Jake?
Correct, Madam Chair. Yeah, no actions required by the board. This is simply reporting publicly on a resolution that was released from a previous in-camera session.
I'll move receipt then.
Second.
And Jake, if you don't mind, maybe I'll get you to read out the resolution, please.
Absolutely. The resolution that has been released is as such that the board appoint Director Hillian, representative, and Mr. Rod Nickel as the alternate in an advisory role and as a liaison between the board and the Ministry of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation for the Comox First Nation Treaty negotiation process for the remainder of the 2018-2022 term of office. And further, that remuneration expenses be paid in accordance with the Cvrd bylaw number 236. Provided that remuneration and or expenses are not paid directly by the external organization, and further that Rod Nickel be paid an honorarium of $160 and be reimbursed for associated expenses incurred for formal meetings attended.
Okay, and this will be a vote of the board, so I'll go through the roll. Director Hamir? Or sorry, use it. It wasn't a vote, was it? So it was just a rise and report?
No, there was a receipt motion, Chair.
Just a receipt motion, okay.
I was going to speak to it too briefly.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Director Arbor.
Well, I just want to thank Director Hellion for stepping into this very important role. We know that Comox First Nation has been in treaty negotiation and approaching the finish line, and I can't think of a better person to represent the regional district at the table. So thank you, Director Hellion.
If I might respond, Chair.
Go ahead, Director Hillian.
Yeah, thanks to Director Arbor for those comments. I appreciate the opportunity and the support from the board, and will do my best to work alongside former Director Nickel as a citizen representative. I've already attended one of these sessions and look forward to continuing on and reporting back to the board on the further progress of this important and historic treaty negotiation.
Thanks very much for those comments. So anyone opposed to receipt? Hearing none, that's carried. And we're on to F, reports, the Regional Growth Strategy Technical Advisory.
Move receipt.
Second.
And are there any questions or comments on the Regional Growth Strategy Technical Advisory minutes from April 8th? And is there anyone opposed to adoption of those minutes? Hearing and seeing none, that passes. And we're on to report 2, Black Creek Oyster Bay Service Committee, May 11th.
Move receipt.
Move. Second.
Second.
Okay, and are there any questions or comments on receipt of the minutes from May 11th? Director Lee, do you have a comment?
Actually, I do not. I'm just going to be going with the recommendations as they're printed, and I won't be discussing them.
Okay,
As a question.
Point of order, Chair. It's difficult to hear the speakers at the table. I'm not sure if their volume could be turned up.
I'll talk right into the microphone. Can you hear me now, Doug?
thank you, Director Lee. Okay, so is there anyone opposed to receipt of the minutes from May 11th? Hearing none, that's carried. And we're on to recommendation 1.
Second.
And the recommendation is that the Comox Valley Regional District request the Strathcona Regional District Board enable the necessary permits to be approved to allow for the installation of the new water supply well within the Oyster River Nature Park to advance, and further that once Strathcona Regional District support the installation of the new water supply well project is received, the Comox Valley Regional District undertake an environmental flow needs assessment in parallel with the installation of the new water supply well to be completed prior to March 31st, 2021. Is there?
Madam Chair? I
Yes,
think there's just one minor amendment that needs to happen, and that is the Comox Valley Regional District will undertake an environmental. The word will needs to be added in there.
okay.
That's all.
Thank you for that correction, Director Lee.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions on this recommendation?
I might provide just a comment and just say that I think it's great to see progress on this file. So thank you to the service committee for advancing that work.
Okay, and this is a weighted vote between area C and D. So Director Lee
In favor.
and Director Grieve,
In favor.
thank you. And that passes. And we're on to recommendation 2.
Move recommendation 2.
Second.
Thank you. And that recommendation is that Comox Valley Regional District work with the Ministry of Forests, Lands, Natural Resources, Operations, and Rural Development to confirm the terms of reference for an environmental flow needs assessment of the Oyster River. And finally, that an application to the Infrastructure Planning Grant Program for an environmental flow needs assessment of the Oyster River be completed. Any comments or questions on recommendation 2? Okay, again, it's a weighted vote for area C and D. Director Lee,
In favor.
Director Grieve,
In favor.
and that passes. Thank you. And I believe that concludes business for you, Director Lee.
Thank you, and thanks for hosting me here today, and I'll see you next time, hopefully in person, all of us.
Yeah, it was nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to Electoral Areas Service Committee. The receipt of May 11th minutes.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Anyone opposed to the adoption of minutes for May 11th? Jake, do you have a comment?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Not on the receipt of the minutes, but just with respect to recommendations 1, 2, and 3 under the Electoral Area Services Committee. I just want to remind the board that it is an option to endorse those through a consent motion.
Okay. So is there anyone opposed to adoption of the minutes for May 11th? Hearing none, that passes. And would we like to do a block, a consent motion for recommendations 1, 2, and 3?
I'll move that.
Second.
Okay. Jake, would you like to provide a summary of those motions?
Yes, thank you. Recommendation 1 provides that the board approve a development permit DP 3B20 on the property at 1782 Ryan Road East for the development of 2 buildings on a commercial lot. Recommendation 2 provides that the board approve a development permit DP 4B20 on the property at 5228 Island Highway North. And finally, recommendation 3 is that the board approve a development 26C19 on the property at 9022 Clarkson Avenue for the development of 29 tourist accommodation units and 1 residential unit.
And we already had a first and second for that?
Yeah.
Great. And are there any further comments? And this is a vote of the areas. So I will go through the roll. Director Grieve?
I'm in favor of all 3.
Okay. Director Arbor?
Same.
Director Hamir?
Yes, in favor of all 3.
Thank you. All 3 recommendations pass. We're on to recommendation 4.
I will move it.
Second.
Thank you. And that is recommendation 4 is that in order of further assess mandatory maintenance program options, the Comox Valley Regional District submit a formal request to Island Health for a data sharing agreement enabling Cvrd access to complete sewerage system regulation filings held by Island Health. Any comments or questions on recommendation 4?
I can speak to it. Just for the directors, this is a report that's been produced that looks at how to improve septic outcomes in the rural areas, and this is just the next step, but we had a really comprehensive report, and if people want to have a look at it, the municipalities, they should. We're trying to address long-standing issues. That's it.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? This is a vote of the entire board, so I'll go through the roll. Director Hamir?
In favor?
Director Arbor?
In favor.
Director Grieve?
In favor.
Director Grant?
In favor.
Director Swift?
In favor.
Director Frisch?
In favor.
Director Hillian?
In favor?
Director Morin?
In favor.
Director Cole Hamilton?
In favor.
Great, that passes. And we're on to recommendation 5.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Recommendation 5 is that the public engagement plan for the Comox Valley Regional District roadside garbage recycling and yard waste collection services presented in the staff report dated May 7, 2020 be approved and implemented. And further, that staff report back to the Electoral Areas Service Committee following public engagement to present the results. Any comments or questions on recommendation 5?
Guess I'll comment again, and I want to thank staff for a really good job on this one of looking at options to extend garbage and recycling pickup in the rural areas. And I think in the next few months, we'll be able to engage with the public to look at options around that. And the report provided a lot of different options and analysis. So that was really good to see.
Great, thanks for those comments. And again, this is a vote of the full board. So we'll go through the roll. Director Hamir,
In favor.
Director Arbor,
Yes.
Director Grieve,
In favor.
Director Grant,
In favor.
Director Swift,
In favor.
Director Frisch,
In favor.
Director Hillian,
In favor?
Director Morin,
In favor.
Director Cole Hamilton,
In favor.
and that passes. Thank you. We're on to recommendation 6.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And it's that staff be directed to suspend exploring river access swimming opportunities along the Solom River at this time. Any comments or questions on recommendation 6?
See Director Grieve has his hand up.
Thanks for noticing. Director Grieve.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, with the indulgence of the board. What we've seen over the past few decades is a curtailment of public access points along around traditional areas of the river that have been, my grandfather swam in them. They've been used for many, many years. And what we've seen though is things like fences put up over right-of-ways. We've seen, of course, the moving of the bridge from the old Solom River Bridge, and then that property reverting to being given by the provincial government to the landowner, and again restricting access to the river. Although we really, in this post-COVID era, don't have the time or the energy to pursue it, I think it's important we keep this front of mind, because unless we actually defend right-of-ways and access points, we're going to lose them for future generations. So I just want the board to realize that that was the rationale behind bringing this forward in the first place. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Director Grieve. I appreciate that update. And Director Hamir?
Well, I want to echo what Director Grieve just said. I'm also a swimmer of the Solom and really appreciate that's one of the benefits of the Comox Valley, having all of these options. But from the work that our staff did, it looked like the only places that we could safely have access were within the city of Courtenay, and it didn't look like that was going to be available to us for the time being. So I think I would also like to revisit this in the future when things sort of settle down.
Thank you. Director Frisch?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And it'll come as no surprise that I'd be in support of helping out with this in any way possible, even though I know it's an electoral area initiative.
Great, thanks for that. Director Hillian, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to clarify, is the rationale for the suspension that it's a workload issue at this time, or is it that there aren't any opportunities to explore?
And is that to staff?
Please.
Chair, and Doug DeMarzo is on the line, and the General Manager of Community Services, and he can provide some context to the board.
Thank you, Russell. Through the chair to the board. The rationale this time is largely, as you've indicated, the workload required to look at the available spaces and the potential funding to bring them up to a standard where the public can easily access the spaces in the electoral areas is not a top of mind for us right now. We don't have a planner in place in our Parks Division. And our parks are very busy right now. The lower hanging fruit of the access off of Courtney wasn't supported by the city there. So we have chosen to suspend the Solom River discussions for this time.
You weren't totally clear there. Maybe could you just repeat that last sentence?
Oh,
He said City of Courtney not supportive, I think.
yeah, essentially, can you hear me now? Sorry.
That's better.
Had issues off and on throughout many meetings the last couple of days. Essentially, yeah, the workload and the amount of resources required to make the current locations, the road right-of-ways within the electoral areas would be cost prohibitive at this time, and we also don't have a planner in place at this time. Our parks are obviously very busy, so we figured we better look at this at a further date. And the original request for the City of Courtney cooperation down by the exhibition grounds wasn't seen as a priority either.
Chair, I think I got the gist of what Mr. DeMarso was saying. Maybe if you turned off his video, the bandwidth might be clearer on the audio.
Yeah, so basically that both from the CVRD perspective and the City of Courtney perspective, it didn't sound like the resources were there to deal with this item at this time.
Thanks very much.
Director Frisch?
Yeah, I was just going to concur that probably at the City of Courtney, it is a capacity issue, but when things do loosen up a bit, hopefully we can work together on that in the future. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, not seeing any further comments or questions, we'll go to the vote, and it's a vote of area ABC. So Director Hamir?
In favor?
Director Arbor?
Yes.
And Director Grief?
I'm going to politically position myself by saying not in favor.
Okay. And that's a weighted vote. And it passes.
Correct.
It's a mental marker.
And we're on to recommendation 7.
Move 7.
Second?
Thank you. And the recommendation is that staff be directed to postpone the delivery of the Lazo Road Pathway Project until 2021, except for the portion of the trail over the Lazo Marsh, to see if design and build synergies exist with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure amphibian fencing project. Director Grant?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to be sure if this is the same bit of project, because I know we're starting one down Lazo that we wanted to connect in with what the RD was doing, and we've had some player changes in our organization as well, and just make sure that we're all still on the same page with what's going on there.
Is that a question to staff?
And Chair will give Doug DeMarso one more try with the technology, and if he has difficulty, I can answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I was trying to dial in, but it's only US numbers here. So hopefully you can hear me okay. With regards, we'll just be looking at the Lazo Marsh area directly, where the synergies are with the Ministry of Transportation, where they're currently doing work plan for this year. And we hope to work with the town of Comox in the future for the remainder of the 2 corridors along Lazo Road as they connect from Point Homes into the Butchers Lazo area.
I'm pretty sure that I heard what he said, and I think that it was what I wanted to hear, so I'm good with that. Yeah, just to confirm, we will definitely work with the town, and when the opportunity permits for us both to have the resources for us to collaborate on that.
Thank you. There were hands up, but there aren't any more. Is that on purpose? Director Hamir?
Well, I was going to explain a little bit, but I think Doug has kind of explained it well, that although this was supported quite well by residents of Area B, that the work on the actual extension and the bike, sort of the bike path had to be suspended. But as soon as possible, we'd love to see that project go ahead. And for now, there's an amphibian infrastructure project that staff will be working on, but we really can't go ahead without Comox, just for the sake of, I think, cost. So it's not that we're forgetting about this, it's just on temporary hold.
Thank you for that information. Okay, so seeing no further hands up, this is a vote of the areas again. Director Hamir,
In favor.
Director Arbor,
In favor?
Director Grieve.
What the heck, in favor?
Okay, thank you, and that passes. And we're on to number 4, Comox Valley Sewage Commission, May 12th, minutes for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or question on May 12th minutes? And is there any opposition to receipt of the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, that passes. And we're on to item 5, Comox Valley Water Committee, May 12th minutes for receipt.
Move receipt.
Second.
Any comments or questions on those minutes? And any opposition to receipt of the minutes? Hearing and seeing none, those pass. And we're on to item 6, Comox Valley Sports Commission, May 12th minutes.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any opposition to receipt of minutes? Seeing and hearing none, that's carried. We are on to item 7, the 2020 grant in aid.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. And that's for a report from May 15th about the funding allocations for receipt. Any discussion about this? So Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks for the board. Basically, as you recall, we did, it was a great idea, and I want to thank staff for that idea initially to release COVID funds to nonprofit organizations, as well as all in response to COVID. And I guess these are our earlier grants that we had received, and now we had a chance to look at them, more regular non-COVID related grants, and I'm happy to see them proceed if this is approved.
Great, thank you for those comments. Is there anyone in opposition to receipt of this report? Seeing and hearing none, that passes, and we're on to the recommendation.
I'll
Move
move
the
it.
recommendation.
Second.
And the recommendation is that the grant and aid on Schedule A of the Director's Report dated May 15th, 2020, payable from the respective areas indicated, be approved. Any comments or questions about this recommendation? Okay, and it's a vote of the full board.
Yes, one question.
Oh, go ahead, Director Hillian.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering what the capacity is within this grant budget, and to what extent there is ability to extend grants or add to the organizations supported.
I'll pass that on to staff.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors. And Kevin Duval is here, the Manager of Financial Planning, and he'll provide a response.
Thank you very much to the Chair, to the Directors. So I can give you a brief kind of overview as where we were at currently with the grant and aid program. So as Director Arbor alluded to, we had previously awarded $85,850 in COVID-related community work funds grants out to various agencies within the community. If the board were to endorse the report in front of you today, that would be another $138,810 for total awards of just over $225,000.
The current budget allocated across the 5 grant and aid services is approximately $278,000. So that would leave us another $52,000 to potentially allocate.
Thanks. And Chair, if I might just a comment, the reason I ask is because as board members may be aware, we will be receiving a staff report at some point in relation to a valley-wide accessibility strategy and support for the accessibility committee, which has been requested of this board. And in my discussions with the accessibility committee and staff, the board should be aware that the accessibility committee has developed a working relationship with the Social Planning Society, whereby the Social Planning Society will act as a somewhat sponsoring organization. They've signed a statement of intent to work together. And given that the Social Planning Society receives a small grant under this function, there may be some possibility of expanding that to support the work of the Accessibility Committee in future. So I just wanted to note that for the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hillian. Are there any further comments and questions about the grant and aid? And this is a vote of the full board. Oh, wait, there's quite a few hands up here. Director Arbour?
Thanks. I was going to just provide some input to Dr. Hillian. Obviously, those funds come from the rural areas. I think there's a preference to put most of them there, but we do contribute to many municipal-based organizations, and yeah, they should get in touch for the future for sure if they're not already.
Thank you. Director Hamir?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, the budget allocations, I think the three area directors, we try not to allocate entirely in our first adjudication because we know that some nonprofit groups don't get their applications in on time. And I already know of one that has already sent in an application. So as much as possible, though, we really encourage those applications to come in at once so that we can, you know, allocate and judge the applications all at once. But yeah, there's always a little bit of money left over at the end.
Thank you. And Director Grieve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just for clarity for the municipal directors, as rural directors, this is our one and only totally discretionary budget item. And we use it in a lot of instances to support community halls, as you can see, environmental associations and conservancy groups. And then, you know, whatever's left over, we do channel a lot of it towards other organizations that are more based in the municipalities. But primarily, I think Daniel said it best, that we have to keep our powder dry here so that we can support very worthy causes in the electoral areas, because they're basically a lifeline for them. There's not any other source other than you know, federal and provincial grants. Thank you.
Great, thanks for that, Director. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll put it to vote. I'll go reverse order this time. Director Cole-Hamilton?
Favor?
Director Morin?
In favor.
Director Hillian?
In favor.
Director Frisch?
In favor.
Director Swift?
In favor.
Director Grant?
In favor.
Director Grieve?
In favor?
Director Arbour?
Yeah.
Director Hamir?
In favor.
Thank you, that passes. And we're on to item 8, CVRD Safety Reopening Plan.
Move receipt.
Second.
Thank you, and I'll pass this to staff.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors, and James Warren is here to introduce this report and answer any of your questions.
Thanks, Russell. So directors, this is a very short report presented, and it is to introduce a policy statement that would enable the regional district to reopen some of its facilities in a way that supports the safety, health, and well-being of both the general public and the Cvrd employees. And we would be aligning any such reopening with the guidelines, advice, and best practices presented by WorkSafe BC, BC Centre for Disease Control, and the Ministry of Health for British Columbia. As the BC's restart plan is unrolling or unfolding, the opportunity to open facilities is before us. And this policy just makes it clear that we would be doing so in a way that follows all the best practices. We would have all the appropriate signage, reopening plans, policy statements, and best practices around physical distancing, physical separation, and other practices to make sure that the public and our employees are safe. The policy also does go on to say that we would remain responsive to changing conditions associated with COVID-19, such that any future facility closures would occur where necessary. And so directors, we're here for any questions that you might have. I guess one last point would be that at subsequent meetings, we would expect to present additional information as needed. The most pressing one, or the most obvious one, I think, are the rec centers, the sports and aquatic centers, for the eventual reopening of those facilities. And you'll see subsequent reports at, for example, the Sports Commission. Madam Chair.
Thank you, James. I think Director Grant had his mic on first.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if, I know we're looking at the same thing in Comox, and if there's a somewhat of a coordinated effort so that we're not doing one thing at one facility and something else at another. We could easily confuse the public if we're not careful with different openings at different times and different things going on.
Thanks, Director Grant. So that's certainly a question that has been raised and discussed at the Emergency Operations Center, the EOC. And in particular, there's a what's called a cadre. It is representatives from each jurisdiction referencing the recreation centers and parks and playgrounds, and trying to take that coordinated approach so that we are consistent and there is one message. Sometimes there are unique situations in each community where an opening may not be in the best interest of the whole valley to be coordinated, but that's a discussion that is happening at the EOC level.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. So Director Arbour.
Yeah, thanks for that work. And, you know, I think it's important that if you need to take your time and get it right in terms of the policy, do that. We heard from Dr. Charmaine Enns earlier today that in her opinion, and partly at the health authorities, that they think we'll be living with this for 2 to 4 years. We often hear just, 6 months a year if you listen to the US, but so if, any policy we have, so for example, I'm hoping that it'll get issues like masks and things like that will get addressed, or, but again, thanks for the work, and I hope it will provide a sustainable path for the next number of years as we live with this disease. Thank you.
Okay, and Director Moore, you're next.
Great, thank you, Chair. Of course, we're having the same conversations over at Courtney, and yeah, I would just agree that I think if we can have as much consistency between the different local governments, that would be great. And also, although we have been getting very good news in BC and particularly on the island with our containment, it was noted this week that local governments are role models for the rest of the community. And I think that, and we do need to hold ourselves to kind of the higher standard, or the best, workplace practices or work safe modeling for the rest of the community. So I think that it's important to definitely be cautious while still, opening up as best we can. And again, just trying to keep things fairly consistent so that we don't confuse the public. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Hillian.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to staff for the report and the work involved. I note that safety of our employees is a significant factor in this, along with obviously safety of the general public. And I'm just wondering to what extent staff through their union are involved in the dialogue and the steps towards reopening.
Thanks, Director Hillian. So I have the opportunity to meet weekly with QP representatives, the unionized employees for the operations, with the exception of our rec facilities. And with me is Ellen Jackson at those meetings from HR. So we have regular dialogue with QP representatives, and there's certainly input into some of the various materials, including the reopening plan, illness protocol, and some of the other measures that we're taking. So there's a regular dialogue and input that we're seeking from them, as well as we have occupational health and safety committees for our facilities and buildings, and that of course has joint representation. So I think there's a fairly good dialogue happening back and forth.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so we are on receipt. Are there any opposed to receipt of the item? Seeing and hearing none, that passes, and that moves us on to the recommendation.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Thank you. And the recommendation is that whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has had significant impact on the CVRD's ability to effectively deliver programs and services, and has resulted in the closure of many CVRD facilities, and whereas the CVRD is committed to safety, health, and well-being of its employees and the general public, therefore be it resolved that Comox Valley Regional District facilities, which were closed as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, be reopened in alignment with recommendations, advice, and guidelines issued by WorkSafe BC, the BC Centre for Disease Control, and the Ministry of Health BC. And further, that any reopenings be informed by safety plans, safe work procedures, signage, and internal and external communication to promote public safety and responsible operations. And finally, that CVRD remain responsive to changing conditions associated with COVID-19, such that future facility closures occur where required. Any further discussion about the recommendation? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go through. Director Cole-Hamilton?
In favor.
Director Morin?
In favor.
Director Hillian?
In favor.
Director Frisch?
In favor.
Director Swift?
In favor.
Director Grant?
In favor.
Director Grieve?
In favor.
Director Arbor?
Yeah, in favor.
And Director Hamir?
In favor.
Great, and that passes and moves us on to bylaws and resolutions for third reading. And item 1 is bylaw number 609, Rural Comox Valley Zoning Bylaw 520, 2019, amendment number 4.
Move it.
Second.
Thank you. And this is for third reading and is a vote of the areas. Any comments, questions on that? Okay, Director Hamir?
In favor.
Director Arbor?
In favor.
Director Grieve?
In favor.
That passes, thank you. Then we're on to bylaws for first, second, third readings and adoptions. And the first one is bylaw number 615, Comox Valley Regional District Security Issuing Bylaw number 615, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And this is for first and second reading concurrently. Any discussion? Okay, I'll go through the roll. Director Cole-Hamilton?
In favor?
Director Morin,
In favor.
Director Hillian,
In favor.
Director Frisch, Director Frisch,
You're muted.
In favor?
thanks. Director Swift,
In favor?
Director Grant,
I missed asking a quick question on this. I'll vote in favor, but maybe someone could explain to me. It seems like a roundabout way that we're going about this, and I don't completely understand why the regional district is borrowing money on behalf of the city of Courtney.
we'll just finish the vote and we'll allow you to ask your
Just an
question.
explanation.
So Director Arbor,
In favor.
and Director Hamir.
In favor.
Thank you. That's carried. So to staff, with Director Grant's question.
Kevin Duval will answer the question.
Thank you very much. Through the chair to the director, so I'll do my best here. Based on the Local Government Act, it is the responsibility of regional districts to borrow funds on behalf of its member municipalities to support any capital projects or works they are undertaking. So this is based on basically a process that is in place, whereas the municipalities would first go forward and issue their security issuing resolutions, and then they would provide us the required detail and documentation for us to then put forward the security issuing bylaws that are in front of you today.
Okay, well, that's an interesting explanation, but it's still a little bit confusing, but I get it. Thank you.
I think one, if I may, Madam Chair, one of the benefits of this approach, especially for those smaller municipalities, is to be propped up by the shoulders of the larger region in terms of the capacity to borrow funds.
I might add that we'd be happy to take the money from Comox as an alternative.
Okay, so we're on to bylaw number 615 being given third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And I'll go through the roll. Cole Hamilton,
In favor?
Director Morin,
In favor.
Director Hillian,
In favor.
Director Frisch,
In favor?
Director Swift,
In favor?
Director Grant,
In favor.
Director Grieve,
Affirmative.
Director Arbor,
Yep.
Director Hamir.
In favor.
Thank you. That passes. And now we are going for adoption.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Director Cole Hamilton,
In favor?
Director Morin,
In favor.
Director Hillian,
In favor.
Director Frisch,
In favor?
Director Swift,
In favor?
Director Grant,
In favor.
Director Grieve,
Yes.
Director Arbor,
Yes.
Director Hamir.
In favor.
Thank you. So we're on to item 2, the recommendation for bylaw number 616, the Comox Valley Regional District Security Issuing Bylaw 616 for 2020.
Move it.
Second.
Thank you. Just to Jake, can we move the first, second, third, and adoption all in one roll?
Although I'd be very tempted to concur with that, just given the process respecting bylaw adoptions, if I could ask the board just to consider those individually, other than, of course, first and second reading.
Thank you. Okay, so this is for first and second reading.
Move first and second.
Second, first and second.
Any comments or questions? Oh, Director Arbor, you have your hand up?
Oh, from earlier. I was going to make it. Well, I might as well say it. I was just going to say, I just staff will laugh at me again, but I just wish the same courtesy was extended to improvement districts. We know that the municipalities can borrow through regional districts, but not the orphaned other local government in our midst. Cheers.
Thanks for the comment. Okay, Director Hamir,
In favor.
Director Arbor,
For Cumberland, okay.
Director Grieve,
But of course,
Director Grant,
In favor.
Director Swift,
In favor.
Director Frisch,
In favor.
Director Hillian,
In favor.
Director Morin,
In favor.
Director Cole Hamilton.
In favor.
Thank you. Now we're on to bylaw number 616 for third reading.
Move third reading.
Second.
Thank you. We'll go through the roll. Director Hamir,
In favor.
Director Arbor,
Yes.
Director Grieve,
in favor,
Director Grant,
In favor.
Director Swift,
In favor.
Director Frisch,
In favor.
Director Hillian,
In favor.
Director Morin,
In favor.
Director Cole Hamilton.
In favor.
Thank you. That passes. And we're on to the adoption of bylaw 616.
I'll move that be finally adopted.
Second.
Thank you. Director Hamir,
In favor.
Director Arbor,
In favor.
Director Grieve,
in favor,
Director Grant,
In favor.
Director Swift,
In favor.
Director Frisch,
In favor.
Director Hillian,
In favor.
Director Morin,
In favor.
and Director Cole Hamilton.
In favor.
Thank you. That passes. We're on to new business.
Move that the addendum be considered.
Second.
Thank you. There's actually two items on the addendum, two late items. So the first one is changes to cannabis retail regulation. And this was a letter that we received supported by the Association of Canadian Cannabis Retailers. And cannabis retail has been deemed an essential service. But unlike many other retail businesses, the legislation currently prevents them from having retail business online. So this is a request for a support letter to have the province of BC change that legislation, as has happened in Saskatchewan and Ontario in response to COVID, to allow online services for cannabis retail.
Excuse me, Chair, do we first need to vote on the motion that the addendums be considered?
Is that because they're late, Jake? Do we need to vote on them?
Yeah, we just typically have the board endorse the consideration of the addendum items. So in this case, certainly if there's any opposition to those items being considered, then we could receive that. But yeah, it should only take a minute, given that it was moved and seconded.
Okay, so we'll go through the roll then on the adoption.
Maybe just oppose, Chair, if you don't mind.
Is that appropriate, Jake?
Yep.
Okay, and any opposed to receipt of the two addendum items? Seeing and hearing none, that's carried. So we already had, did we have receipt then of the cannabis retail regulation already?
I'll move receipt.
Second.
Thank you. And any comments or questions on cannabis retail? Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks. I guess my vote will depend on the answer to that question, but is that authorized for alcohol to provide online payment and direct delivery service options? Because for me, I like the concept of treating both the same, and so I would not be in support of something that treats those two categories of substances differently.
I'm not aware of the answer to that question. Is staff?
No, I'm not aware as well.
We might have to ask a taxi driver.
Yeah, I'm sorry that can't be answered at this time.
Chair, if I might comment, I wonder if this is an issue that relates to the separate regulation of both of these substances. Whereas you actually can phone a cab and get them to go and pick up a bottle of alcohol for you and bring it to your house. I don't know that you could do the same with cannabis, although I'm not as versed on those regulations.
Yeah, according to the information that we received, no, that it's not the case with cannabis in BC, but it is in other provinces. They have made that change. So that's part of what we're requesting. Director Grieve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, if you actually go online on some of the liquor outlets, there is an option to be able to pay either online or over the phone. And for a small charge, they will drop it off. So it exists, not just with taxis, but they actually have that all in place. And I would say that the sooner we let go of all the stereotypes and treat cannabis like adults, the better off we're all going to be. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Director Frisch.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I wonder if one of the concerns would be people underage ordering cannabis online. Could that be an issue?
There's still all the same regulations about age restrictions in that legislation. Yeah. Any further comments, questions?
Chair, if I might comment, it seems to me it's a fairly innocuous resolution. It simply asks us to write to the province requesting regulatory changes. And I'm sure if there are challenges related to underage consumption or otherwise, the province is well aware of that. So I think we're simply supporting another municipality that is taking this this action, and I honestly don't see any harm in it.
Thank you. So we're still on receipt. So are there any opposed to receipt? Hearing and seeing none, that passes, and we're on to the requested action.
I'll move the requested action.
Second.
Thanks. And that's that the board write to the province of BC to request regulatory changes to enable regulated cannabis retailers to provide online payment and direct delivery service options. Any further comments, questions? Okay, I'll go through the roll. Director Cole-Hamilton?
In favor.
Director Morin?
In favor.
Director Hillian?
In favor.
Director Frisch?
In favor.
Director Swift?
In favor.
Director Grant?
In favor.
Director Grieve?
In favor.
Director Arbour?
Not in favor.
Opposed?
Yeah.
Okay, Director Hamir?
In favor.
Thank you, and that carries. And we're on to the addendum item 2, which is the recruitment analysis for COVID-19.
Move receipt.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, and I'll pass this over to staff.
Thank you very much, Chair and Directors. And this is just a brief report to provide you an update on the status of recruitment. At the time that COVID happened, we stopped all hiring. We had a number of positions in place that were vacancies. And we also had positions that had been budgeted for in the budget. So this just indicates our intention to proceed with these hirings. It has come time where these are positions that are required for the organization, but there are some adjustments that we can make that will see a decrease in the full-time equivalents and over this year at the very least, and make some adjustment, but enable us to proceed with key positions that will be required for the water treatment project, for our solid waste service and others. And so it's just a report for your consideration and update to let you know that these postings will be happening in the next little while.
Okay, thank you for that report. Any comments or questions? Anyone opposed to receipt of the report?
I had a quick comment.
Oh, go ahead, Director Arbor.
Yeah, thanks for providing that. The only one I was sad about, to be honest, is the 2 co-op students for the water operators. I think it's sad that this generation is not, is probably going to pay the most for COVID as they start their careers, and that's the only ones on the long list that I was not feeling great about, but I can understand the rationale. Thank you.
And Chair and Directors, I just want to echo those comments. Co-op students have been extremely valuable positions for our organization. They typically result in long-term hires, are very well educated and informed. It's quite a competitive process to get the co-op students here. So we regret not doing it, but it's just the logistics of a short-term hire and the current situation. So we will look forward to continuing that program in the future.
Thank you. Director Hillian.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to note that a number of these positions relate to water, and I wanted to acknowledge that several directors had a tour of the water treatment plant and project today as arranged by staff, and I wanted to express appreciation to staff for what was a very impressive piece of work. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Director. Okay, we are still on receipt. Oh, okay, no more questions. Anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing and hearing none, that passes. And we're on to.
Moving camera?
Yep.
I'll second.
And anyone opposed to moving in camera? Hearing and seeing none,